you're just out there reaching for emptiness. They're not even there anymore. They don't have any boundaries. People who are offended by your boundaries and your self-respect and your self-awareness, they lack those things in their life. Welcome back to NTheRealestWay Podcast by Marqes Smith, where we talk about so many topics in the realest way. On this podcast episode, we're going to give ourselves a break, okay? I love the progress that we have and the willingness to continue this podcast in the midst of difficult challenges. And even though we're pushing forward, I think that we need time and room to breathe. That's why the next podcast episode after this is going to be titled Room to Breathe. Because we all need room to breathe. Everything can't be exactly that all the time. You know, life can't just be work and life can't just be fun. There has to be a balance. And this is no different when talking about hobbies or purposeful things, right? This podcast is very purposeful. It fuels up my heart and my spirit. And I can't allow it to dwindle because I'm continuing on in a way to where I'm being inauthentic to who I am. And in return, I'm allowing myself to lose the very things that I believe in, because I'm forcing it to be that way all the time. Allowing your creativity to flow and giving yourself room to breathe is very important. So that's why that's the next podcast episode. But on this podcast episode, we're going to do some question prompts that are somewhat deep. I haven't looked at these before. I've seen some examples, but I'm just so, I don't know. This is like my first time, so we're going to click on it. It says deep stuff. Dig deeper. 50 prompts to cut through the fluff and get to know each other or yourself on a whole nother level. Okay. And we're just going to get into it. Yes. So how do you hope to differ from your parents? How do I hope to differ from my parents? And is this question in terms of being a parent or just happy you happen to be a parent and an adult? I guess this is more about if I was a parent and I had a child. If I had a child, which is no time soon, okay? Before this, I was in between of, do I want to have children one day? No, I don't think I'm willing to, because at some point you're going to have to become a little selfless and a lot less selfish. And that just comes with it, you know, being willing to give up a part of your life for somebody else's. It's something that we have to question that. And it has to be a conversation with maybe not just anybody else, but yourself. Are you willing to bring another person into this world or take care of somebody else? I think about the love I could give, the experiences I could teach, but I look at the flower I got, just a small potted flower, and it's overwhelming thinking about how to take care of that for me, right? The anxiety of how much do I water it? Because if you water the flower too much, it can die. You don't water the flower enough, it could die. If there's not enough sunlight, it could die. If it's too cold, some flowers can die. If it's too hot, some flowers can die. When do I trim off the dead ends? Like, these are questions and concerns that flowers have. And it's no different when talking about human beings and how to take care of them. And I know that becoming a parent is not just you wake up and you just do it. And I know that it's something that is very intentional. So I have to be intentional. And I know I'm not going to be perfect. There's no perfect parent, but there are parents who are continually trying to be perfect and to be the best parent. You know, it's a place of giving service too. You're in a place of service for a little bit. A lot of people don't realize that. And I don't want to be a part of this generation and past generations with their teaching of how parenting has gone before. So I don't know what was it again? How do you hope to differ from your parents? I hope to differ in a way to where I have compassion and grace for another human being. I'm not saying they didn't have it. I'm just saying I want to have a lot more. Just a safe environment, safe spaces. They are the pillar of change. How are you supposed to have a conversation with not just your parents, but anybody if the space isn't safe? Like, truly, you've never seen anybody having a conversation where they're both yelling at each other. There's never been a place of where they both mutually came into an understanding of each other. If you're yelling and I'm yelling, nobody's really listening to anybody. Nobody's really listening to anybody. And at that point, you're just wasting each other's time. But allowing a safe space is beautiful, and it's something that is needed in any environment that is trying to heal and continue to be something that could be beautiful and is beautiful. Okay. What mistake do you continue to make over and over and over again? One mistake I continue to make over and over again, and it's not like you'll ever learn how to have it forever. It's not like, oh, I gained the quality of this tool and I'm going to have it for the rest of my life. It's something that you have to work at over and over again. And it's boundaries. It's my ego. It's knowing when I should allow people in and when not to, and how much of people I should allow in. Okay? Because I care a lot. And I was just in a therapy session, and when I was talking about everything I've done before, and most of my suffering came from just being of service to other people. A lot of the times people didn't even realize I was being of service, and I was caught in a lot of crossfire. And if anything, I was the only person who got hurt. So I just understanding my capabilities and still putting myself out there to help people, but also leaving room for myself to have me too, right? It's not just about everybody else. It's also about you too. You have to make sure you're okay. And these boundaries are for you so that you can have safe spaces in yourself, especially when you come into places where the environment isn't as safe. And I feel like allowing yourself to have healthy boundaries, it's gonna strengthen anything. If a relationship, and this is, listen, boundaries, okay? Boundaries are for you. It's not for you to regulate other people. It's for you to regulate yourself and what you're allowing to happen in your space, okay? That's the one thing. You don't set boundaries to control people. It's not about other people. It's about yourself and what you're allowing in your space. But if you're around people and you generally have these boundaries, an example is respect, how you talk to me, how you treat me. You know, these are boundaries. You can't talk to me that way. And if they are triggered when you say that and you're genuinely trying to set a healthy boundary, you need to remove yourself. You know that Megan Thee Stallion song and Glorilla song? If they don't want to be saved, don't save them. That is not mine. Don't claim them. Okay? They don't want to be saved, don't save them. You ain't got to put yourself, again, that's the boundaries. You don't have to extend yourself so much to where you're just out there reaching for emptiness. They're not even there anymore. They don't have any boundaries. People who are offended by your boundaries and your self-respect and your self-awareness, they lack those things in their life. And you'll never find a relationship that is beautiful and continually trying to be healthy. You saying how you feel and expressing how you feel would never destroy the relationship, okay? That doesn't matter. If you're saying these things to let an issue be known and there's nothing in you, in your heart, but in the intention of trying to fix this issue, there should be no reason why you setting a boundary is a problem. If anything, it is something that I would love to look for in friendships and romantic partners and just work relationships, the boundaries. I would love to see that. When was the moment you felt the loneliest? The loneliest? There was a couple times. There was one in high school when I was pushing myself with my instrument and trying to achieve this level of progress and perfection. I was chasing after perfection, trying to become the best musician, and I have to be all of these things, and I would just constantly practice and practice and practice my entire life, and my mind was filled with how do I get better? And that's good, right? I guess if I had it in a healthy level. It was obsession. It was the feeling of wanting to feel validated. So after I didn't achieve those things as much as I wanted to, and I did accomplish a lot, I was left with I could have done more. And after it was all done at that point, I felt so weak. I felt defeated, and I felt like I couldn't matter in any other way because that was how I felt validated by achieving this great feat, this a great accomplishment. So that was one time I felt the loneliest, when I didn't know who I was and I was chasing after things that I shouldn't have been chasing after. Another time was when I came to South Korea. This was my first time coming here, and I didn't know anybody. I was in a different country and I felt really lonely. I wasn't healed really at all. And I was still dealing with issues that were from high school. And if anything, they got even more, I guess, aggressive in terms of like how much I was triggered and what I was doing. I was constantly yelling at people, cussing people out. And I just felt so lonely. My family wasn't here. Everybody I knew in high school that I cared about, they were all doing their own things, and I couldn't feel like I would ever fit back in that place again. Like everything that I knew before was gone. And one of the things that I'm dealing with now that I feel is really bringing me down, and I don't know when I'll get over this, but the fact that ever since I came here and I've been healing and becoming a better person, and I've taken myself with me every single day, I didn't realize how much weight and how heavy and how much time it takes for my brain to process all of these things. One day to me feels like 2 weeks. So let's not even think about how that was a year ago in some months when I last spoke to these people. And sometimes I feel horrible for forgetting so many memories and so many connections that truly were fulfilling. But I am dealing with that. I'm going to therapy, and It's going to take some time to fully detach myself from it's okay that these memories are fading, as long as you understand that you did care and you did do the best that you could. Okay. So those were the times where I felt the loneliest, when I felt like I didn't have anything. But I have so much now, and I had a lot then. It's all about shifting your mindset, like the podcast episode I had before, of just changing everything that was before, changing it and allowing it to be different. It doesn't have to be that way. You can turn it over and it could be something else. Okay? It's all about how you look at it. What do you think your worst trait is? My ego. My ego is horrible, okay? And it's gotten a lot better, but my ego has definitely caused a lot of my issues with constructive criticism from almost everything. The need to feel validated. My ego has been fueled by everything. I've used my ego to become successful in high school and even up till now. But my ego has been through a lot, and it's a little deflated in a sense to where it still puffs itself up every now and so, but now it doesn't do it as much, and it still has its days of issues, but the deflation isn't from like healing necessarily. It's deflation from exhaustion, from the resilience that I had for so long of forcing myself to keep going. And resilience isn't always a good thing, even though people think, oh, you have so much resilience. Sometimes it's not good to be as resilient as we are. To allow ourselves to be vulnerable is beautiful. So that's why I think my ego is my worst trait, because even when it's deflated, it's still doing its thing. It's just doing it differently and affecting my body and other people differently. But my ego is my worst trait. And if the question was to go further of how am I dealing with it, therapy and just more self-awareness and healing and giving myself room to breathe too. We can't keep forcing ourselves to keep going all the time. Like healing is not, I wouldn't say healing in general or healing my ego is not my top priority. And that's crazy, right? Healing isn't my top priority. It is one of my top priorities, but living is my top priority. If I was to stop healing, I wouldn't just stop living, you know? Like I deserve to be here. You deserve to be here. And even if we were, and this is just how you would say it, and it's the truth, if you were to never change again, that wouldn't change the fact that your existence is validated and you are supposed to be here. Okay? You don't have to change ever again if you being here is what matters, okay? Uh-oh. So, how do you show your friends you care about them? If I had any. I'm just playing. I really don't. Ever since high school, I had to shift my mindset about what I considered friends, and a lot of that was ego boundaries and not having honest conversations with people. But to answer the question, how do you show your friends that you care about them? I don't know really. I usually just do things. I just do things, and that's just me showing that I care about people. It's not like intentionally like, oh, let me do this because I care. It's just like I just do it because I care. It's just something I just do. I like quality time with people. I like if I'm bothering you, if I'm constantly like, kind of picking at you, that means I care about you. That's how I show I care. I give a lot. I just give and give. So I guess that's how I show I care about people. I let people know verbally too sometimes, and I really appreciate you. But I've had to take a break with myself in terms of like relationships and any relationship, because it's just the intention about how I'm going about it. I was listening to somebody and they were talking about how we shouldn't be so focused about our relationship right now, especially if we're dealing with things that are causing issues in our lives right now with us. I'm not saying you're going to be healed and perfect when you meet the one for you, but if you're so focused on getting a relationship, you're never focused on like dealing with your own stuff. It's going to happen when it needs to happen, and you're not going to find somebody necessarily by just going out there looking for them, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that that's not the case all the time. I know there's been people who intentionally got out there and found somebody, but I want to find the love of my life unintentionally now. I don't want to find them on Tinder. I don't want to find them on Grindr. I don't want to find them because I'm out here looking for them. I want to just be maybe in the library reading a book, and then, hey, I like this book. Then it goes to, hey, you want to go for coffee? And we go for coffee, and then it keeps going. Or I meet them in the gym. They help me with this exercise. Like I don't want my entire life to be filled with how do I find the love of my life, because then I'm going to be whole. I'm already whole. I don't need a person to come in to make me feel like I matter. When we think about relationships and we think about ourselves, the conversation that needs to be had is, how are they complimenting me and what are they adding to my life? If you think about it like ice cream, you're already the ice cream, okay? Now, if you want some toppings, you can go out there and have some toppings. They're the toppings. They're complimentary. You don't need them. I don't need anybody to make me feel whole. I have that within myself, or at least I'm trying to pursue that. And even in friendships, we give so much power to romantic relationships that we fail to realize that, how are we doing our platonic friendships and relationships? How are we working through that? So I don't want that to be a concern for me anymore. I'm not really worried about that right now because I have my own stuff to go through. What family tradition would you like to start or continue with your own family? I think a tradition that I want to start is, and I'm sure other families aren't doing this and have done this, but when I think about a tradition, I know it's like certain days or certain things that you may do, and I would want openness, and like if there was something physically or that you did, and then out of like, oh, okay, now everybody has your attention and you open up about how your day was, or if that makes sense. Like there was a key word, like it's rainy outside, and then everybody comes together and we all sit here and we have a conversation about how your day was. And Susie took my pencil today and broke it. I feel like that really hurt me and I don't know what to do about it. That safe space. I want to create a tradition where there's safety, because there's safety, there's power in us and community. That's what I want to have in my family. Okay. What traits do you hope to have from your parents? If I was to say my grandmother, I would want the love that she has. She's given so much. She's given so much. My family has given so much for us. And I'm forever grateful. They're not perfect people. They will never be perfect people, but a younger version of myself would have probably never answered that question because my heart was filled with despair. And you can't really think when you're full of anger and emotions and trauma. But after I've healed and I went through so much of my issues, I've seen all that people have done for me, all that they continue to do for me. You know, I'm not saying they're perfect and their actions have always been perfect, but they have been a pillar in creating the person I am today. So if I was to have a trait from my parents, I consider my grandmother my parent, I would hold on to the fact that she specifically was loving and resilient and gave up a part of her life that she didn't have to do. She didn't need to do it. So, before I start crying, that's it. Okay. How would someone describe your group of friends? Anytime I'm in a group of friends, people think we're crazy, girl. They think, what's wrong with them? Like, I find myself drawn to people who are free and who are not allowing society to tell them how to be. That's what I want my friends to be like in the future whenever I'm capable of being a friend to other people. You know, you got to be a friend to have a friend. Okay? It can't just be, oh, I want a friend. I want a relationship. I want this. But who are you and what are you willing to do to have that? That is a question that you need to be asking yourself, okay? What did your younger self assume about adult life that isn't actually true? I used to think that adults and parents and grown people had it all figured out and that they were these authoritarian people who were perfect, and they're not perfect. They're people just like us, and they have their own trauma, their own experiences, their own flaws. We can't expect people to be perfect. And when I was older, I just thought that I thought they were perfect people. I thought they could do anything. And when I went into basic training specifically, when I was around these people on a level to where we're all the same now, we're all trainees going through basic training, you start to see people for who they are, people. Before I would have been like these grown men acting like children. You don't know what they went through and what they're going through now. And before I would have probably criticized them. But yeah, I didn't realize how much of adults were, and it's going to sound crazy, but human. You know, we look at them like they're just above it all, but they're human just like us. What would you study if you continued your education? As soon as I graduated from high school, I went into the military. And in high school, I loved music. Music theory whooped my ass. I do not understand music theory, but I love music. And I don't know what I would continue. Maybe education in the political sense, more of understanding history more and what's going to happen in the future. I think I'm interested in that too, because the path that I'm going is going to benefit from that kind of education. So yeah, something with the study of politics and just history. What have you begun to love over time? Myself. I've begun to love myself over time. The flaws and the ego, the me talking all the time. My mind constantly running from itself. I've loved and learned to love myself. And it's always some days worse than others, some days better than others, but I've learned to love myself over time because I've always loved other people. It was never a question of, do you love other people? It was, do you love yourself? That was one of the issues that I struggled with the most. I struggled with that. Do you love yourself? And the answer is yes, I do love myself now. And I'm constantly learning to love each second of myself, each version of myself. Because every time I lose a part of myself to just the environment I'm in and I'm growing, I have to find a way to accept that that part is gone, but to allow the new version of myself, the new part of myself to be honored and loved and respected too. Every death is not meant to be despair and sadness. It's a way of honoring and respecting everything of who you were before and what is coming in the future. To be grateful. What bad habit are you aware you have but are choosing not to change? It wouldn't be that it's a bad habit that I'm continuously choosing not to change, but there's been moments, especially when I don't check on myself throughout the day or even in the morning, and I'm filled with my own irritation and I'm overstimulated. I tend to lose my patience. I tend to lose my respect for myself and other people. And then that's when it's easy to trigger me and it's easy for me to not listen to what other people are saying. So that is something that sometimes I choose not to change. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to hear nothing about nothing. It's like, well, Smith, you always talk about healing and growing. What about now? I'd be like, fuck that healing. I don't give a damn about no motherfucking healing. Please leave me alone. Okay. I'm tired of all y'all people. Okay. But the grace I need with myself, and it's okay. It's all right that you feel that way. But how are we going to show up better next time? What have you changed your mind about recently? What have I changed my mind about recently? I don't know. I'm always changing my mind. Every day I'm changing my mind about something I believed in before. I don't really know. I change a lot of stuff. I could say I've changed my mind about my podcast recently, about how I want it to look and how I want it to be. It's always evolving. I could talk about how there's some uncertainty with me going back to the States because I've been here for a year and it hasn't felt like a year. It's felt like it's been 5 years. Like I've been here my entire life. So I don't know. I've changed my mind about how I'm ready to go back because I think it's needed for myself to be around people like my sister and my family. So, yeah. What would your past self be surprised to learn about current you? That I've forgiven myself. I've forgiven other people. I haven't allowed the pain and hurt to consume me as much as it has before. I would be surprised about the grace, the my willingness to just go through life as an experience and not just work all the time. I think that version of myself, my younger self, would be surprised about that. Alrighty, okay. What dream have you given up on? I've given up on the dream of the perfect life, the perfect way to success, and I let go of the unhealthy expectations and the ways that I was hindering myself of truly growing. It's important to have goals and things that we want out of life, but these expectations, they can be unhealthy sometimes. They can be unhealthy. And realizing that some things need to be let go of is freeing. It's liberating. That's a dream that I want to give up on. That thing of I have to be perfect all the time. I got to work all the time. It's just all the time. Does the way people see you match the way you see yourself? No. I don't think it ever will. I don't think I want it to. I was on TikTok and I was listening to somebody discuss how your parents and people you seen when you were younger have seen the version of who you are now. And the way they said it was the perception of and the version of who you were then, and the people who are knowing you now know this version of you. And if they were to have a conversation, some may agree with each other, but most of the time they'll have they'll be talking about two different people. Only you know who you are. Only you know yourself and what you've been through. You've been with you the entire time. You've been with yourself this entire time. It's not just been anybody else. Does that make sense? Everybody has a version of you. I don't think it will ever match. They may be similar, but I don't think it will ever match. And nobody will know you and your intentions more than you know your intentions. And yeah, we coming to the conclusion. I think I'm gonna do like one more and maybe two more, and we're gonna close this podcast out. What belief, idea, or value took you a long time to unlearn? I mentioned a lot of them already about just how I used to see life and how it has affected my current self and my past self. I can say belief because I haven't really dove into that one on this podcast. Christianity, my spiritual religion, was something that I needed to question. I needed to find my own way into my relationship with God. And it couldn't be a foundation of what other people taught me. I had to have a relationship. It had to be me and God, not me, Susie, and God. Me and God. A relationship with us. That's what I needed to have. It was needed. In order for me to continue growing and learning, I had to do that. Okay. Last one. Let's see. When did you last surprise yourself? Today. I'm always surprising myself. I'm always proud of myself. Every time I think I couldn't do better than I've done before, I prove myself wrong. I'm surprised at my consistency with creating podcast episodes for a week. I guess will be considered a week now. I've been making podcasts all week, every single day. Me by myself. It's not an easy feat. Some people would have given up by now, but I'm still here and I'm surprising myself every single day. I like this segment. If you like this segment, comment, let me know. Like, was this good? I feel like it was very healing for myself. I know other people probably found something in there that they may be connected to a little bit. And yeah, I want to create my own prompt cards or something similar to that. And we'll see where that goes. But yeah, I really like this podcast episode. It's healed a little bit of myself too. Just speaking things that normally I don't get a chance to talk about. I don't even know that I should talk about them because, it's your mind. Your mind is powerful. Okay. But thank you so much for thank you so much for potting. Thank you so much for watching this podcast episode. Okay. I give thanks to the utmost, to the highest power, God. I'm thankful for my friends and my family. I am truly, truly grateful. This is NTheRealestWay Podcast out. My mind, it's time to go to bed. It is 11:48. I think that's on my brain. Like half of my brain is already asleep. It's like, so that's why at the end I was kind of like, girl, go to bed, girl. It's time to go to bed. But thank you so much for watching this podcast. Go out and go check out more. Like, comment, subscribe. Okay, please. I would appreciate your time of doing that. Goodbye.